So you shared this incredible piece with us from zero to fluent, my honest English journey. Really appreciate you sending that in. We're going to dive deep into that today.
Yeah, it's fantastic. We've got your detailed account right here, and it just gives such an honest look at what learning a language is really like.
Mm.
So, our mission for this deep dive is basically to pull out the key moments, the insights from your experience, the struggles, the breakthroughs, the mindset shifts.
Right.
So, anyone else learning a language, particularly English, can kind of get a shortcut, understand the process through what you went through.
Exactly. And you laid it out so clearly. We'll go through the beginning, then into, well, the tough stuff, struggles, embarrassment, and self-doubt.
Yeah, that bit's important.
Then discovering what works for me, which is key. Consistency over perfection, breakthroughs and little wins, staying motivated, and finally, your conclusion and advice. It's a great roadmap.
It really is.
So let's kick off at the start, the beginning. You called English this sort of secret code from movies and music, felt out of reach. Tell us about that initial feeling.
It's such a vivid description, isn't it? That idea of hearing something everywhere, but it feels like this locked door.
Yeah.
You hear the sounds, maybe it sounds cool, even magical, like you said, but you feel like you're stuck while maybe others seem to just get it. It really nails that initial intimidation.
And then school happens. You'd hope it would make things clearer, but then you hit those spelling versus pronunciation traps. Like, what were the examples? Though, enough, island.
Oh, yeah. Those classic English quirks.
It almost feels like a trick question, doesn't it?
Yeah.
How did dealing with that kind of inconsistency early on affect your confidence, your approach?
Well, it points to how unpredictable language can feel sometimes. And it's interesting because those early struggles, like you mentioned, can push learners towards just memorizing.
Right for the test.
Exactly. Memorizing for the test instead of, actually trying to connect or speak. So it's a common defense mechanism, maybe, but it creates that gap between knowing about English and actually using it.
But then you had this spark, a simple movie line, you said. Not some big academic thing, just a line that made speaking feel possible.
Yeah.
What was it about that moment?
I think the power there is the connection. It wasn't a grammar rule from a book. It was real. Language being used in a way that, meant something emotionally. That line probably made English feel personal, less like a school subject and more like, a tool, something you could use. It plants that seed that maybe you can do this.
And from that spark, you dove into all the resources, apps, tutorials, podcasts, social media, the whole thing. Sounds exciting, but you also said overwhelming.
Definitely overwhelming. There's just so much stuff out there now.
How did you start to sift through all that?
Yeah.
To figure out what was actually helping you?
Yeah, that flood of information is, it's a modern problem, isn't it? But what's key in your story is you didn't just freeze, you experimented.
Right.
You tried things out, but also you realized you couldn't just keep jumping around. You had to actually, stick with something for a bit to see if it worked.
And then came a really big moment, it sounds like. Accepting that being a beginner, making mistakes, that it's not just okay, it's necessary.
Yes. That shift.
Yeah,
it's almost
yeah.
backwards, right? Letting go of trying to be perfect is what actually helps you improve.
How did that click for you? What changed when you started thinking that way?
It's freeing. That fear of messing up holds so many people back.
Right.
Once you accept mistakes are just part of it, feedback even, you feel okay trying things. You start engaging, speaking more, writing more, even if it's messy. And that active use, like you found, is where the real learning happens. Communication over perfection, especially at the start.
So after that mental shift, you built habits, daily stuff. Writing, journaling, shadowing, talking to yourself, knowing mistakes would happen, but doing it consistently. What did you start noticing from those small, regular practices?
Consistency. That's where the magic happens, slowly. Writing, even simple stuff, helps words and grammar stick. Journaling makes it personal. Shadowing, great for accent and flow, feeling the rhythm. And self-talk, just narrating your day or whatever, it's practice without pressure. All adds up. Those small bits day after day.
And you realize something huge, the mindset part, beating the fear. Believing you could learn that was the hardest bit, harder than grammar or vocab lists. Why do you think that internal struggle is often the biggest barrier?
It's because learning a language makes you vulnerable, doesn't it? You're putting yourself out there. You might not understand. You might say the wrong thing. You might feel stupid, honestly.
Yeah.
That taps into deep fears about judgment. So overcoming that internal voice, that doubt, takes real conscious effort, sometimes more than learning the actual words. Believing you can fuels everything else.
Okay. So you got started, you had the spark, the mindset shift, but it wasn't all easy after that. You hit what you called a wall, made of grammar fear, speaking anxiety, self-doubt. Sounds really familiar.
Oh, yeah, the infamous plateau or wall. It often happens after the initial excitement fades, right? Suddenly, grammar seems like this huge mountain. The fear of actually talking to someone feels more real, and you start thinking, am I even getting anywhere? Progress feels slow. It's tough because the novelty's gone. You realize, wow, this takes sustained effort.
You mentioned a specific bad experience early on, talking to a native speaker, feeling broken, awkward, slow, misunderstood, and it nearly made you quit. That's rough. How did you bounce back from that?
That kind of experience could just crush your confidence, can't it? Feeling misunderstood is so frustrating. The key, though, is how you eventually reframed it.
Right.
Instead of seeing it as I'm bad at English, you started seeing it as feedback. Like, okay, this part was hard. What can I learn?
Yeah.
Shifting from I can't do this to this is a challenge I can work on. That's resilience. That's crucial.
And the embarrassing moments didn't stop there, did they? Misunderstanding jokes, typos in messages, saying the wrong phrase.
Happens to everyone.
You even mentioned the th sound, like tree versus three, or thank you versus thank you, those little things. How did you learn to deal with the embarrassment, and what did you do practically to work on things like pronunciation?
Yeah, those moments.
Yeah.
You just have to learn to, well, maybe laugh at them eventually, but also see them as data. Like, okay, people didn't understand that word, or, the sound needs work.
So you target it?
Exactly. You see it not just as embarrassment, but as information. So for pronunciation, maybe listening really closely to that specific sound, doing exercises, recording yourself, actively tackling the problem areas like that tricky, it shows real commitment.
And then there's a comparison trap. Seeing fluent speakers, especially online, looking perfect, that can kill motivation fast.
Oh, absolutely. Social media is a highlight reel, isn't it? People rarely show the struggles.
How did you manage to pull back from comparing yourself and just focus on your journey, your reasons for learning?
It takes conscious effort. You have to remind yourself they were beginners ones too. And then, crucially, reconnect with your why. Why did you start? Was it for connection? Travel? A specific goal? Focusing on your own progress, however small, and your personal reasons, that's much healthier than looking at someone else's polished endpoint.
And you made a great point that self-doubt doesn't just vanish. It can still pop up. The trick is not letting it stop you. What strategies helped you manage that lingering doubt?
Recognizing it's normal, first off. Everyone feels it when learning something hard. It's not a sign you're failing.
Yeah.
Then, practical things. Setting tiny goals you know you can achieve. Acknowledging successes, even little ones. Reminding yourself how far you've already come compared to the start. Basically, you acknowledge the doubt, say, okay, you're there, but then you deliberately choose to keep going anyway.
So after navigating all that, you started figuring out what actually worked for you. Realizing there's no one-size-fits-all method and just switching constantly wasn't helping. That's a big realization. What questions did you ask yourself to find your own style?
I think the key question you landed on was just so smart. What actually helps me learn? Simple, but powerful.
Right.
It means looking inwards. What's my personality? Am I shy, outgoing? What's my lifestyle? How much time do I really have? And what are my goals? Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
Answering those helps you tailor things, move away from generic advice to something that fits you.
You mentioned listening, but focusing more on the rhythm, the tone, the feel, not stressing about understanding every word. That sounds more relaxed.
Yeah, it's like absorbing the music of the language. You start picking up the natural flow, the intonation, even subconsciously.
Yeah.
It builds this foundation for understanding and speaking more naturally later, even if you're not catching every single detail right now.
And shadowing, repeating after speakers in short video clips. You said it felt weird at first. What improvements did you notice? Pronunciation, obviously, but also confidence.
Shadowing is super active. You're physically trying to make the same sounds, training your mouth muscles.
Right.
So yeah, pronunciation improves. But just the act of doing it, of mimicking native speech, it builds this feeling like, hey, I can make those sounds too. It boosts confidence, even if it feels a bit silly initially.
Switching gears to reading, you found reading for fun, stories, lyrics, blogs, worked better than just textbooks, focusing on context, not looking up every single word. Sounds more enjoyable, for sure.
Oh, definitely. Reading stuff you actually like makes it feel less like homework. You're
Yeah.
motivated to keep going.
Yeah.
And you learn words naturally in context, which helps you remember them much better than just memorizing lists. You see how they're actually used.
And then your creative speaking practice. Talking to yourself, narrating your actions, telling stories in your head, recording voice notes, low stakes, high reward.
Totally. It's a safe space, no judgment. Talking to yourself helps you practice thinking in English, finding the words you need.
Mm-hmm.
Recording yourself is amazing feedback. You hear your own pronunciation, your fluency, where you hesitate. You can track your progress that way too.
You also talked about relaxing about grammar, seeing it as a map, helpful, but you don't need to know every street name to start your journey, allowing mistakes. How did you find that sweet spot between knowing enough grammar and just speaking?
That map analogy is great, isn't it?
Yeah.
You need the basics to know roughly where you're going, but you don't need a PhD in cartography to drive across town.
Huh?
By focusing on actually communicating and accepting that mistakes will happen, you avoid that perfectionism paralysis. You keep the momentum going in your speaking, which is so important.
Setting small personal goals instead of just become fluent also seemed really key for you, like specific, achievable things. Can you give some examples?
Yeah, instead of be fluent by next year, maybe it's learn 5 new food words this week, or watch one 5-minute YouTube video in English without subtitles today, or try to explain my hobby to myself in English for 2 minutes.
Okay.
These little targets feel doable. You tick them off, feel good, and that builds motivation. Lots of small wins add up to big progress eventually.
And finally, weaving English into daily life. Changing your phone language, following English accounts, joining online groups, making it ambient. What effect did that constant low-level exposure have?
It makes English feel normal.
Mm.
Less foreign. It's just there in the background. You're constantly reinforcing things without actively studying. It helps vocabulary stick. You get used to seeing sentence structures. You absorb cultural bits. It just becomes part of your world.
Okay, so you found your methods. Then you hit on probably the biggest theme, consistency over perfection. You said consistency is more important than talent even. That's encouraging. But you also mentioned that cycle. Big effort, then burnout. Why is that less effective?
It's like cramming for an exam versus studying steadily, isn't it? Your brain just learns better with regular input, forming patterns over time. Those intense bursts, they can lead to overload. You might learn a lot quickly, but it doesn't stick as well. And you just burn out, stop completely for a while, and feel like you're starting over. steady, regular practice is much more sustainable. It builds those pathways in your brain more strongly.
So you shifted to doing a little bit every day, even just 5 minutes. You said the brain likes patterns, not pressure. How did you actually build those mini routines? What made them stick?
Linking it to things you already do is often the key. Like listen to a podcast while you make coffee. Read one news headline in English while waiting for the bus.
Ah, habit stacking. Yeah.
Exactly. Make it part of the existing routine so it's not this extra thing you have to force yourself to do. And tracking helps even just a tick on a calendar. It shows you're keeping the promise to yourself.
And that idea that chasing perfection actually stops you from being consistent, that fear, how did you really internalize giving yourself permission to mess up, to just show up instead of being flawless?
It comes back to that mindset shift again. Truly believing mistakes are okay, they're actually good for learning.
Right.
When you let go of, I have to say this perfectly, you free yourself up to just practice. Focus on the doing, not the perfect doing. That takes the pressure off, makes it easier to just do something every day, which is the whole point of consistency.
You talked about quiet progress, those small improvements you might not even notice day to day. That's a hopeful idea for people feeling stuck. What did that look like for you?
Maybe suddenly understanding a line in a song you didn't before, or finding the right word a bit quicker in conversation, or just feeling slightly less anxious when you have to speak. They're not big fireworks moments, they're subtle, but they are happening. Recognizing them, even in hindsight, shows you the consistency is working, even if it feels slow sometimes.
And the advice to start small, build up, do something, even on tired days. So practical. It fights that all or nothing thinking.
Exactly. 5 minutes is better than 0 minutes.
Yes.
It keeps the habit alive, stops those long breaks where you lose momentum and feel bad about it. Make it sustainable for your life, even the busy days.
So, after all that consistent work, you started having those breakthrough moments and little wins. The first big one you mentioned, thinking in English naturally without translating. Wow, what did that feel like?
It's weirdly normal when it happens,
Yeah.
but also amazing. It means the language is really sinking in, becoming part of how you process things.
Yeah.
Your brain isn't just swapping words anymore, it's operating in English.
Yeah.
It probably creeps up on you thanks to all that consistent exposure and practice.
And you stressed that breakthroughs are often small, feel ordinary, but are huge internally. We need to spot those little wins. What are some other examples people might miss but should definitely count?
Oh, loads. Understanding a joke, like really getting the humor. Ordering coffee without rehearsing it 50 times in your head.
Right?
Following a group conversation better than before. Helping a tourist with directions. Even just feeling a tiny bit less panic when someone asks you a question unexpectedly. They all count. They're all signs you're moving forward.
You also realized true success isn't just certificates, it's using English to live life. That shifts the focus, doesn't it? From grades to actual connection.
Massively. It connects learning to real life. When you see English as a tool to make friends, watch movies you love without subtitles, travel freely, read books you're curious about, it becomes way more meaningful than just passing a test. That intrinsic motivation is powerful.
More little wins you mentioned. Understanding sarcasm, that's a big one. Laughing at comments, being understood when asking for help, believing someone when they compliment your English.
Yes. These all show growing comfort and confidence. Sarcasm means you get nuance. Believing compliments means your self-perception is catching up with your actual ability. They're signs the language is becoming truly yours.
And writing down those little wins, such a smart practical tip. A way to fight discouragement by having proof of progress.
Exactly. On bad days, when you feel stuck, looking back at that list, wow, I actually did that. It's a huge morale booster. It reminds you the effort pays off, helps you keep going.
Okay, let's talk motivation. You acknowledged it comes and goes, not always high. So, strategy 1, connecting English to your personal life, like learning lyrics to your favorite songs. Your awe songs, as you put it.
Yeah.
Why does that help so much?
Because it makes it fun.
Mm-hmm.
It stops feeling like study and starts feeling like, well, enjoying your hobby through English.
Yeah.
You're learning because you want to understand that song or that movie or that topic you love. It taps into genuine interest, not just
Yeah.
obligation. That's much more sustainable.
Strategy, too. Finding relatable role models. Not perfect speakers, but other learners. How does seeing their journey help?
It makes fluency feel achievable, not like some impossible dream only gifted people reach. You see someone who struggled like you, who made mistakes like you, and they got there. It gives you hope, makes you feel less alone.
Strategy 3. Clear emotional goals. Not just learn English, but why? Connect with people, read certain books, travel without fear. How does that emotion pull you through?
That why is your anchor. When things get tough, when motivation dips, remembering why you started, that deep, personal reason gives you the strength to push through. It makes the effort feel worthwhile.
Strategy 4. Celebrating the small wins again. Verbal pats on the back, acknowledging understanding, reinforcing the positive.
Absolutely vital. It's like building momentum. Each little celebration adds fuel, makes you want to keep going, proves to yourself you are capable. It creates a positive feedback loop.
Strategy 5. Creating an inspiring environment. Phone language, English content, online communities. Immersing yourself.
Yeah, surrounding yourself makes it constant. You learn passively. It feels more normal, less like a chore. And communities offer support, practice, shared experience. It all helps keep you engaged.
Strategy 6. Teaching what you've learned. Explaining things to others. How does that boost motivation and understanding?
Teaching forces you to really understand something deeply, to organize it clearly.
Right.
When you can explain it, you know you've grasped it. Plus, helping someone else feels good. It reinforces your own knowledge and gives you a sense of accomplishment.
And strategy 7. Self-compassion. Being kind to yourself, patient with setbacks. Why is that so important?
Because you will have bad days. You will hit plateaus. Beating yourself up makes it worse. Makes you want to quit. Treating yourself with the same kindness you'd give a friend. That helps you bounce back, stay positive, and keep trying. It's essential for the long haul.
So, wrapping up your account, you framed it as this ongoing journey with seasons, reflecting on going from zero to actually expressing yourself, and stressing it was persistence, not magic. Then you give some direct advice. Let's revisit those key points for everyone listening. First, be patient. Why is that number one?
Because language learning takes time. Simple as that. There are no real overnight successes. Impatience leads to frustration, quitting. You have to accept it's a marathon, not a sprint, and trust the process.
Second, make English part of daily life. We talked about immersion, habit stacking, the core message.
Don't keep English in a separate study box. Weave it into everything you do. Listen, read, watch. Think in English as much as possible naturally throughout your day. Make it unavoidable in a good way.
Third, speak even when uncomfortable. That fear is real. Why push through it?
Because speaking is the skill you're trying to build.
Mm-hmm.
You can't get better at swimming by just reading about it. You have to get in the water.
Yeah.
Facing the discomfort, making the mistakes, that's how you improve fluency and confidence. It's where theory becomes practice.
Fourth, don't fear mistakes. Reframing them as learning tools. Key takeaway.
Mistakes are not failures. They're essential feedback. Every error tells you something you need to work on. Embrace them. Learn from them. Don't let the fear of making them stop you from trying.
Fifth, celebrate small wins. Why is acknowledging those little steps so crucial?
It keeps you going. It builds momentum, boosts morale. Recognizing progress, however small, reminds you that your effort is making a difference. It makes the big goal feel less overwhelming.
Sixth, find what works for you. The personalized approach. What should people remember here?
You are unique. Your learning style, your interests, your schedule. Don't just blindly follow one method because someone else recommended it. Experiment, pay attention to what you enjoy and what actually helps you learn effectively. Tailor your journey.
Seventh, Surround yourself with English, creating that immersive environment. Practical tips.
Change device languages. Follow English speakers channels online. Listen to English music podcasts during commutes or chores. Watch shows in English. Subtitles are fine. Read articles, blogs, books. Make English visible and audible in your life.
And finally, number 8, never give up. Reminding us progress happens even when unseen. It's about sticking with it.
Exactly. Trust the process. There will be ups and downs, fast progress and slow progress. But consistency wins. Keep showing up, keep practicing, keep engaging. You're learning, even on the days it doesn't feel like it. Perseverance is key.
And you ended with that powerful note. You are enough. Breakthroughs will happen. Learning a language transforms you. It's more than just a skill.
Absolutely. It's personal growth. It opens up new worlds, new connections, new ways of thinking. Believing in yourself, knowing you're capable, even when it's hard, that's fundamental to the whole journey.
So, summarizing these incredible takeaways from your journey. Mindset is everything. Mistakes are your friends. Find your path. Consistency beats perfection. Celebrate every tiny victory and keep your why close to stay motivated.
That really captures it. Your experience is just so valuable and honestly relatable for our listener. Someone looking to learn efficiently, wanting those aha moments, but without getting bogged down.
Right. So, thinking about everything you shared, here's a question for our listener to mull over. Reflecting on this journey, what's one small, consistent step you could realistically add to your routine starting today that fits your style and goals?
And maybe also ask, what little wins have you already had that you might have dismissed? Think back. What moments of understanding or slightly increased confidence have you experienced? Recognize those. They're proof you're on the right track.
Great points. If this deep dive resonated and gave you some useful ideas for your own English learning, maybe share it with someone else who's on that journey too. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and remember every single step forward counts.